Hi, this is Matthew and Elisa Berry at the Jesus Following, and we're continuing talking about some of the things that are important to us. And today, or at least in this video, we're going to talk about how God is already there.
Yeah, that's right. So this concept of God is already there is really important to us. I think sometimes as we reach out in our communities and neighborhoods, we can sort of unintentionally carry this idea that we are taking Jesus to a place where he is not. And we really like to emphasize the fact that we don't take Jesus anywhere. In fact, we get to discover where he has already been, where he has already gone before, and began working in the lives of the people around us. John Wesley used a term that he called prevenient grace to describe God's activity before a person gets saved. And we really believe that God has he has gone before and has already been active in writing each person's story. So if you think about when you read like a fiction book, there are different characters in the book, and there are some characters that are more prominent at the beginning of a story, and there are other characters that are in the story, but as the story progresses, they sort of come forward and get a little bit more pronounced. So I think that's a great analogy for me to remind myself of as I reach out to people, as I love people, just to recognize that God is already present. He already knows this person. He's been active in their story, and we are given the invitation to partner with Jesus and to celebrate what he's already doing in that person's life, and in some ways to help people connect the dots and recognize how God has already been active in their lives.
Right. So in a sense, you're not coming into that person's life and doing like a big work in their life. You're just coming alongside of what God is already doing. And it's actually a more enjoyable way to go about things instead of feeling the burden of having to do this, accomplish this great work in this person's life. You're confident that God is already doing something. And I think that person can even feel that attitude shift in you and me when we just come in just full of confidence and joy and faith about what God is already doing, instead of like, come on, you better get on the ball here with this, right?
Right. Yeah. So we don't approach people thinking, I'm going to bring Jesus to them. I'm going to bring the change into their lives. I think that sometimes when we act that way, people can feel like they're a project, and they can feel like you're there to change them, when in fact this way of thinking, it just really releases you from having to feel intimidated, to feel worried about what am I going to say, what am I going to do, and you get to approach your neighbors and the people in your workplace really with celebration and joy and optimism, knowing that the God of the universe, who knows your name, who knows our story, he knows their name and he knows their story, and he's already been at work.
Yeah, and you're kind of cheering on what you see God doing in their life. So you might not feel like you have to, present like the whole message of the gospel to them. But when you see something, or at least this happens to me, when I see God doing something, it's so fun to be like cheering it on, like, yes, that's, or even like, yeah, you're right on with that insight that you had, because you may not have to even say it, but you know that was God speaking to them.
Yeah. I just want to briefly read a verse from Psalm 139, and it says this: "How precious are your thoughts about me, O God. They cannot be numbered. I can't even count them. They outnumber the grains of sand." So as we are reaching out, as we are loving the people around us, we just remind ourselves that God intimately knows these people. Like as the grains of sand on the seashore, God has that many thoughts for the people that we're reaching out to. And so it's really an honor to almost sit in the back seat with Jesus as he's already at work in the lives of those around us. And so we began talking about how God is already there. The Spirit of God is already present. But in another sense, we believe that you are already there and already present. And so this concept, we ask people, where has God planted you? God is really intentional about everything that he does. And I think that sometimes we can think to ourselves, well, I live in this area because I found this great deal on a house, or I have this job at this, particular location because, a friend referred me and now I have this great job. But, and all of those things can be true, but we like to celebrate the fact that God is very intentional and that you have likely been planted in a neighborhood, in a community, in a workplace, for more reasons than just to have a good job, to have a great deal on a house, but that God has put you there to connect with the people around where you live and where you work,
and to bring his kingdom, to bring a taste of his kingdom. And I think we have authority in that place that belongs to us, in that place where God has planted us. Like, I have authority in my house for it to have a certain atmosphere, or I have authority in my relationships. My side can be full of grace. My side can be full of God's kingdom. I can bring God's kingdom into wherever I go. And sometimes I think we forget like how much power God has given us where we're planted. And sometimes we think, I should go somewhere else, when we have this great opportunity here to bring beauty to the place where we are.
Yeah, and we talk about having a missionary mindset. And I think sometimes when you hear that concept, you can be tempted to think, well, I need to go to someplace new. I need to go to a new country, or I need to go to a place far away from where I live in order to do something of significance. And all of those things are really good. God does call some people to overseas missions and to do different things like that. But I think that there's a lot of importance in recognizing who are your neighbors, who are your coworkers, who are the people at the stores that you see on a daily or weekly basis, who are those people who make your coffee or you run into regularly, and recognize that in having a missionary mindset, those are the people likely that you've been sent to.
Or even your family.
Yeah, that's a really good point. So just want to encourage you in this, just to remember that Jesus is already at work, and we get to discover what Jesus has already been up to, and then help those people connect the dots and celebrate the fact that we have been placed intentionally in such a time, in such a place. And Esther, remember when Mordecai tells Esther, who knows if you've been brought forth for such a time as this. So just want to encourage you that where you live, where you play, where you work, those are likely the mission fields that God has sent you to. And he's equipped you. You know the language, you know the culture, and
who better than you?
Who better than you to reach the people around whom you've been planted? So just another thing to think about on this journey of being on mission with Jesus.